Go ahead. Let's kick it
Right,
off.
go.
Chris, Ryan.
I'm going up. Right. Back, episode 4 of the Dope Stroke Show podcast. We've been on live for about 2 minutes. Trotty thinks he's in Milan Fashion Week. So he's been stressing about which hat to wear, whether he should wear a hat. I've gone to town and put some mood lighting behind me to make the viewers' experience even better. What do you think of this, boys? Do you like this?
I think it looks pretty good, to be fair, mate. Like, what did you do? Go to IKEA, or was that like a little Sainsbury's just half bucket challenge? Or what happened there?
No, I've had these. I had these a while. I just needed to charge them. But I thought, you know what? I'm all about the viewers' experience and making it good for the people watching on YouTube. So I thought I'd put some mood lighting here. See, I'm stressed about my lighting. Trotty's stressed about his hat. So we've got big topic this week. We're going to talk about golf and the state of golf and what the hell is going on with golf and why, as a golf industry, we can't get ourselves together. But what's your week been like, boys? I know it's only Monday today as we record this, but did you get so much last week?
I've been absolutely everywhere. I was over in the UK. I was, I had to pop back to England for a personal trip. Got to see KED down in London, a.k.a. Dazzler, down in London for a quick little meeting that we had with the boys from Clipped, which was fantastic. Dashed back to the US and then realised that we've collected more assistants in our podcast than we have viewers, which is fantastic.
We've got a big team backstage, haven't we? Who are trying to kick us into shape.
We've got a big team and you've got Halloween lighting. I mean, I don't know where to go with the rest of this. And all you want to do is talk about the state of golf. I mean, Jesus Christ, we can talk about what you're going to be for Halloween, can't we?
We can do that if you want. Dazzler, what have you been up to?
I would say I had a relatively quiet weekend, but last week I had a massive week, to be fair. Some great news coming my way, which I'm sure I'll be able to reveal in the not too distant future, but very exciting stuff on the way for the stuff I'm building. So it's great. And I did get to see the Trotmeister for a little bit as well. Saw him with the Clipped boys. Turn your head, Trotty, so we can do some product placement because you know what you like with your hat. But beyond that, I would say, yeah, that's about it. Just, raising the bar. That's all I'm doing.
So somebody asked me online, these golf shafts that you've got in, like, how did you change these golf shafts? How did you choose to switch from money tapers to Tour V's, blah, blah. I was going through all the YouTube stuff. And I'm just like, Clipped, boys, Clipped. I mean, It tells you, it's data, it tells you what to do. Much like our data told us we needed extra backroom staff on the Dope Stroke podcast, which is fantastic. While we're on that, by the way, have we got any people written in? Hello at dopestroke.com.
We need a few more. We definitely need a few more people writing in. So, hello at dopestroke.com. Send us your query, send us your questions, send us your thoughts. We want to hear from you and we want to talk about it. So, throw it in.
I have a question straight away for you, Bubsy. I know you're itching to get your question in, but you're going to have to wait because it's actually one for myself, this. I haven't hit a golf shot. I've hit some chip shots in the back garden since I've been back, but I haven't hit a golf shot in over a week. What do you say to people if they haven't played in a week because they might have had a situation like mine where you've had to go and do a bit of work and travel? How do you get your game back in after a week off?
I just think you've got to start slow. You've got to start with your wedges. You've got to be just dialing in just your feel of the golf club. Like, people listening to this will be familiar with this, but sometimes if you've had a bit of a break, the golf clubs can just even feel strange in your hands. So, I'd be taking quite a few practice swings with a wedge, just really get a sense of where that club is in space, feel it swinging around your body, trying to hit some little pitch shots, focusing on rhythm and timing and strike, and then just work through the bag. And that first practice session back, I certainly wouldn't be doing any swing mechanic work, any drills, overanalyzing your golf swing, overanalyzing ball flights, just trying to get back into it. So just start slow and just focus on tempo.
And then body-wise preparation to hit those shots. I know Dazzler works with a fella, Driven, but I've got Golf Forever stuff that I sometimes use. Is there anything, like, I hate to say it, but I'm over the age of 40 now and it's painful. Like, I'll swing a club for the first time in a while and it's freaking hurts.
Mate, I have not, this year, I have really struggled in my back. I don't think I've played golf this year fully 100% committed to golf shots. I've really struggled with it. So I had to be seeing a physio, and it's exactly right. It feels like you hit 40 and like the body just goes, I'm done. I've had enough of this. Like, you can just try without me.
So what do you say to all the naysayers then that think that golf is more of a pastime as opposed to a sport? Yet you pair just seem to be like permanently injured. Like, what do you say to those guys? Oh yeah, sport, golf, yeah, nah, it's just a pastime. What do you say?
I think it depends on what you're measuring against and where you're trying to get to. So, for example, we talked in the last episode about stack and till, and in that, stack and tilt's the name of it. It's Andy Plummer. I think stack and tilt was a marketing thing. We covered all that. Go back and listen to episode 3 if you want to hear it. But you have to get your back and your body turning in the correct way, and that's thoracic spine and things like that. And I'm always pushing to do that. Now, I think I have less injuries than I did in my 20s because I think I swing it a bit better. But I think it happens because we're pushing the limits. And I think the sad news is that you do jump time zones with your job. You do consume perhaps a couple more beverages than you should because you're trying to be social. And all those things my diet struggles at times, especially when you travel. And all those things aren't conducive to good play. But I mean, we're not tour players. What are you going to do? I really think I'm chatting to someone at the moment about PGA Tour averages come up a lot in terms of dispersion, distance from the hole, and then a range where you can work in what is accurate. Again, the clip data, how you compare yourself to a tour player, how you compare yourself to a plus handicapper, a scratch handicapper, a 10, whatever your level is. I think those things are huge because they give you something that is visual that you can work off. And then on that, you can maybe not push yourself so hard or expect so much or push yourself a bit harder. So it's all about understanding and knowing the grades, which ultimately is why this podcast exists, to try and help people understand those things.
Mm-hmm.
I find what's interesting about talking kind of body, physical limitations and that kind of stuff. Look, I think we all know that if you want to be the best version of yourself, you've probably got to spend a bit of time in the gym, flexibility, strength, that kind of stuff. So I think people get that. But on the flip side, through my coaching, I think kind of that message has been kind of lost. Like, it's amazing how many people come to me and they say like, oh yeah, but I can't hit it any further. I can't turn fully back. I can't get onto my left side. I can't do this. And I'm like, you can. Like, you can do more than what you think you can. And it almost feels like, because this message has been pushed for the last 5-10 years of like, you've got to work on your flexibility, you've got to work on your strength. When people aren't doing that, they're almost going, well, I must be terrible then. It's like, people can do a lot more than they think.
I think a bigger impact on your game, though, and actually it's all coming back to me what I've done in this last 7 days. I played the Kingdom Invitational. I was leading the freaking thing through 15 holes, and then I had a look at the leaderboard, and I proceeded to make double bogey, bogey, bogey. Nice one. Was no longer leading that, and birdied 17 with a little fist bump to get myself back to level par, and tied for the lead on day 1, and then blew the crap out of it on day 2. But behind me was my good mate I've talked about before, Dean Wilson. He's 53 now, ball speed 160, which for relations and people understanding that relatability it's not uber quick. He's hitting driver like 290, so plenty far enough. But the bottom line is just strategy and the way he carries himself. So I think to get better at golf, yeah, your physical side is one of it, but I think you can get so much better with good strategy, good short game, and flipping just decision making. I mean, Christ alive. There was one pin I went for. We're not going through it blow by blow because I'm trying to get over it. But there's one pin on the left. And I'm at the top of my backswing. Don't be missing this pin left. Of course, you're missing it left, aren't you? Nice one. So I've only been playing for 30 years, but chaos brought me back to Chrissy Ryan's lesson of aiming the rough and cut it back, baby.
Exactly, yeah. That was like therapy for me last week. Right, let's.
Do you know what? Whoa! I did one more thing yesterday that I haven't told you about. This is my jam-pack week. Guess what I did last night? You will love this. I went to a brand new indoor arena, VIP parking off a friend of mine, Mr. Michael Berg, and joined him in a suite with some sliders, some hot chicken sliders that were fantastic.
Nice.
Took my lad. We went to watch indoor soccer, 6-a-side, so indoor football, and it was USA versus Mexico. And obviously, being in San Diego, the Mexico crowd was pumping, to be fair. The US boys won, I think, 4-3 in the end, but the American boys were 4-0 up at one point.
Wow. Great.
Wow.
So is that futsal or is that actual football?
Now, that's an interesting one that you say futsal, because do you even do that in the UK?
I think there are places in the UK that you can do that, but it's not common.
It's big round
but it's all
here.
like bounce court stuff, right? Small ball, small goals.
The ball's a bit
we used
heavier.
to have that in South Africa. Yeah, ball's heavier, but still quite a fast game because it's obviously a small space that you're trying to maneuver in.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it didn't work for the South Africans because your football team shite, but I mean, it works for the
Yeah.
South American lads.
Well, we're decent. We're decent at rugby. Yeah, we're decent at rugby. We're decentish at cricket, and we've got a few classic golfers. You can't argue with that, can you? Eh?
Jesus Christ.
Small nation with no cash. We seem to have done all right in the sport world.
Yeah. Well, I got a lot to say on that, but I'm not.
I'm sure you do. Yeah.
But no, it's indoor, and basically, I think there's 5 or 6 outfield players and a goal. It must be 5 outfield and a goalkeeper, and yeah, the ball is regular weight. But I noticed they booted a ball into one of the suites next door, and my lad dashed out quick as a flash, ran next door, grabbed the ball, and we had a police officer in our suite with us who was a friend of ours, and Jacob stole the ball in front of a police officer. I was like, I'm not sure you can do that. I'm not sure that's on. But what I noticed is how I didn't know how to parent that situation because he was ecstatic that he got the ball. So if the United States soccer team are listening to this, then I will give up the ball if they contact us at hello@dopestroke.com. But the point is, this ball had so much air in it. And I was thinking about it. It must be for bouncing off the walls because I've seen match balls at games, like on outfields in stadiums, and I've been really fortunate through work to be on those pitches, and the ball is not as inflated as it was for an indoor. I mean, this thing had so much air in it, but I guess it comes down to different compression golf balls and what you need for the environment and the place you're in.
Yeah, maybe. It might have something to do with the sides of the courts as well for speed of the ball moving off the wall. So that's why it might be inflated. But staying on football, I watched the Liverpool Arsenal game yesterday, or Arsenal Liverpool as it was at the Arsenal ground. And my son, who's 5, he says to me, "So, Daddy, we're supporting Liverpool, right?" And I've gone, "Yeah." And I said, "What else?" And I said to him, "So other than Liverpool winning, what is the best thing about football?" And he said, "When Manchester United lose." And I said, "Yes, that's my boy." Brilliant. Well. I've taught him well. He knows what the future holds for him. So that's great. Awesome. And talking about future, I think that lends itself nicely to what the future of golf actually looks like. And I know we got it on the agenda today to basically talk about what's happening with LIV Golf and what's happening with the PGA Tour that nobody really seems to know. I guess my burning question is, what the hell is taking so long for them to figure that shit out? Just get in a room, talk it out loud, and get it done. Like, it should not take this long. What's your views, boys?
Well, I think I'm going to come to that, but I want to go back to you, Daryl. Before we answer that, what's your thought on LIV Golf generally? Not so much the tour, because that's been spoken about to death, but just the introduction of another tour in the world of golf. I mean, can you put yourself in a position where you can see what they're doing and kind of go, yeah, I get that makes sense? Or are you a bit more down the route of like, what the hell is going on? And they've just disrupted everything for no good reason.
Yeah, I see what they're trying to build from I suppose, the lens that I'm looking at. I've been quite fortunate to have attended several LIV Golf events over the last few years, and the experience is different. Where I think a lot of people are probably leaning on one camp more than another camp is because they're trying to compare apples with apples, but you can't do that. It's 2 completely different products. Yes, I know there's a similarity in terms of the scoreline, but the way that the scoreline gets developed and created is different. You're not comparing the same things with each other. So for me, is there room and is there space for LIV Golf? For me personally, I think there is, yes. And I like it, especially when you go to a tournament. And it's like a football match. When the tee times are going to get going, roughly when it's going to finish up. And there's like a buzz on site. There's a buzz that builds before the hooter goes. And then when that goes, basically you're ready to play. And just everyone moves out onto the golf course, and it just feels like there's an atmosphere all around the golf course that's got a lot more energy and positivity, which you don't really get other tournaments. But it doesn't mean that there's no room for the other tournaments. There's still room for the Open Championship and those long, drawn-out days that gets played over hours and hours. There's still space for that. No one's trying to replace one with the other, is the way that I look at it. So for me, to answer your question, Chris, there's definitely room for LIV Golf, in my opinion.
What do you think?
There's room for Test cricket. There's room for 2020. There's room for one-day cricket. There's room for all that too. But at least with, from my understanding, the IPL in the cricket and everything else, you get the best playing against the best. I mean, I haven't watched cricket for years, but I'm still assuming that the best play in everything. So the biggest hole in this whole goddamn thing is that I can't see the best against the best. That's annoying for the fan. The fan is losing out. The fan is getting nailed on that. You need to have the best players competing against the best players. And the reason for the delay is obviously because of the financial implications. I mean, without doubt, and the careers and the money that is at play here and at stake here. And you have a lot of smart guys working in those offices over in Florida at the PGA Tour, as I'm sure you do, involved with LIV. And, you know, they all want to figure out how commercially viable this whole thing is for them. I think there's been some reluctance to accept the new world being new media on certainly the PGA Tour's front. But at the end of the day, that I understand as well, there's a lot of money flying around with contracts and partnerships. And it's not as simple, I think, as the golf consumer sees. But the biggest loss in all of it is the fact that we're not seeing the best against the best.
But don't you think, and I hear that point, I hear it. I'm not sure if I'm fully in alignment with that point, because if you look at, say, the football world, and you've got Mo Salah playing for Liverpool in the Premier League, and then you've got Messi in the MLS and Vinicius Jr. in Spain, you know, those are all three different leagues. So when it comes around to the European Championships or the FIFA World Cup, I mean, that's when the best get on the pitch at the same time. And for me, I like that bit. So I would argue that the majors have actually become more of an attraction. They still need to allow and think of a category for some of these LIV Golf players to play in the majors. But for me, I think the best players are playing in the majors, and those are now the proper elevated events. And I like that personally. I can see Bub shaking his head here, so he's obviously got a viewpoint. But for me, I think the majors are far more has far more attraction to the fan now than it did before, when you see Brooks winning, DeChambeau winning, etc., etc. I like that.
I mean, you're wrong, but you can like it.
I'm not wrong. I'm always right.
So I've got a different take, right? And you look at LIV, it's obviously a different product, right? I get that. And I think there is potentially room in the world of golf for a different product, but I don't think there's room for a tour, right? So obviously, being the professional that I am, did a little bit of research. How many events, and this is just a guess, but it doesn't have to be accurate. How many events is a world top 10 player going to play? Like a Rory or Scotty?
15.
15 to 20?
20 max, probably.
Okay. So PGA Tour last year had 51 events. DP World Tour had 45 events. And LIV had 14. So that's 110 golf events across 3 tours. Then you've got Asian Tour, you've got all the Latin America tours, but those are the 3 kind of main ones. So you've got 110 events, and the best players are going to be playing 20. I mean, so therefore you've got 90 events which aren't going to drag the best players in. Therefore, they're harder to sell. And I just think like more golf is not the answer. And then what you're saying, Darryl,
you know why they're playing 20? You know why they're playing 20 though, right?
Money, schedule.
Because the official World Golf Rank divides the number of times you play. So, you know, all these players that you're talking about, they all have data that they're capturing on how they play a golf course, how the golf clubs are performing. No decision in a top 10 player, and I'll generalize in a top 10 player, the names that we all associate with the top 10, whether they're in there now or not. No player in that category of legend player that we're thinking of or elite player makes a decision without looking at the data. And they will pick the courses they go to, and they will pick the number of tournaments they play and the world rank points on offer at those tournaments. And then they will play the minimum amount so they can divide it by that to get maximum return on points. Then all the contracts that they have are all bonused and paid off the world rank points. So everything had been set up so that they would only show up on a minimum number of tournaments to get maximum return. And that had been calculated by insurance companies and golf companies and whomever. So really, I think the LIV thing was a standing there going, this is bullshit. Like, we're not happy with this. You've got these massive tournaments, and I'm Mr. Santander, who's going to sponsor this tournament, who obviously then peels off and goes to do Formula One. and I invite my biggest customer to come on a Saturday to watch the number one player, whoever that might be at that time, play, they miss the cut. And then my number one client comes on a Saturday and doesn't get to see them play. So that was another reason from sponsorship why it was born, from exposure why it was born. The number of tournaments, the players are victim to that based on having to do a minimum amount of events for their World Golf Rank thing, which then gets them in Ryder Cups, it gets them in majors. So the system was flawed against itself. And that's why you end up where you end up. Now, the other thing, though, Bubsy, is once you get out of that, let's call them icon players, and we can name them now. We could name 20 who'd fit in what we deem as a top 10 icon. And then we could go from 25 down to 75, and we could name, 100 players who fluctuate in and out of that category. They're going to need some place to play. And then you can go 76 to 150. They're going to need somewhere to make money and play. So that's why all the global tours exist. Then obviously but if you go to an Asian tour event other than China, if you go to an event, Australia pulls good local crowds. South Africa doesn't pull a good local crowd. Thailand doesn't pull a good local crowd. Switzerland doesn't really pull a big local crowd. So the PGA Tour, you run a tournament in Arkansas, it pulls a big crowd. Like the American guys will go to the tournaments. The problem is they're over freaking 4 days. So, it's a lot. I don't think you're getting a ton of people turn up on a Thursday in Arkansas. You know what I mean? But it's a tough one to solve. And I think the thing is what people need to understand is that professional golf at the elite level is all calculated, and you can easily work the system that you stay in that elite category. And once you get out of that, there are tons of people trying to make money. As much as there are tons of YouTube channels that you can go out there and find the YouTube, social media, whatever that you want to follow on whatever subject they like in golf, you can also find a tour player who might be grinding it out on the Sunshine Tour, who we've never heard of, but he's making money.
So I think what you're saying, I 100% agree with. What you're saying is LIV have produced a product which might work better for viewers and sponsorships. And I get that. So I look at the PGA Tour.
LIV have produced 2020 cricket.
Yeah.
Basically.
So I look at PGA Tour and I go, do we need a product like LIV? And I kind of think we almost do. But my point was, there isn't room in the golf world now for all of this. I'm not saying LIV is bad. I'm just saying there's no room in golf. And going back to the point when Darryl was like, the majors have been elevated, I agree. There's massive hype around them. There's massive viewership. There's massive engagement online. But I'm thinking, like, if you ran a shop, Darryl, and you've got 6 things on the shelf that sell out daily, and you got 20 other things in the shop that don't sell out, you just stock more of the things that sell out. If people are more engaged with the majors, if there's more hype around them, that's the viewers, the fans of golf, basically screaming, this is what we want. Why not give them more of that? Like, I appreciate you can't give them every week, but you can give them more than 4.
How long is it, though, until the PGA Championship falls off from being a major? I mean, the tour was almost at a stage where the players was a major. But now you can go and win a LIV event in Adelaide and make more money, I would assume, I haven't checked, someone can check it, than winning a PGA Championship. So am I more inclined as an individual going out there to make money playing a game, which is a sport, am I more inclined to get in the Adelaide LIV event or the PGA Championship? Because if I'm getting in the PGA Championship as that player, I have to then commit to a certain route to get me in based on world rank qualifying. That's why I told you at the top, the whole thing is messed up. The whole thing is screwed. And I dare say many people must be in the same situation I am, which I hate to admit it. Don't watch golf anymore. It's ruined it. No, I'm not interested. I'll watch the Ryder Cup and I'll watch the Masters and I'll watch the Open Championship. I might watch the US Open, and that's me done. So PGA, 4.5 million for the winner, and a LIV event, 4 million for the winner. But that PGA event, the PGA Championship, the US PGA, to get in that, like I said, you have to manipulate your schedule. Whereas to get in that 4 million per winner of every LIV event, you're going in with 14 events, 14 chances to win 4 mil. It's a no-brainer. These people are out here to make money. It's their job. And I don't hate the players for going down the route they've gone. I hate how slow these other places, other tours have been to react to it. But like I told you, from my viewpoint, there are a lot of people to consider who have a lot of jobs and they're smart and I'm sure they get paid great by all these organizations, and they have to think about how that's going to look for their business, because the PGA Tour is a business, as are the other tours.
I do think, talking about it as a business, the one tour that could absolutely flunk out of this or benefit massively is the DP World Tour. So depending on what deal gets struck here, if a deal gets struck at all, that's either going to help the tour or it's going to not be good for the tour. Now, obviously, my perspective growing up in South Africa, the European Tour was a big part for me. So it's sad to see that decline in the way that it has. And I'm looking at the world ranking points for, or certainly the players that are inside the top 100 of the world rankings competing in these DP World Tour events. And there's like a handful of guys in the top 100. When I first came out onto the tour, it would be a lot more than that, let me tell you. So already the fields are getting weaker. Already there's pressure from the sponsors to, figure out different ways to get greater value as the fields are getting weaker at a time when they're asked to put more money into the prize funds. It's a complicated environment. And, I speak to the players on the tour, and I'll tell you one thing for a fact. No matter what the DP World Tour organization says, 9 out of 10 players I speak to want to play on the LIV Tour. 9 out of 10 players that have been asked the question, would you like it if the PIF invested or bought out the European Tour? Would you accept it? Yes, they would. That's the reality on the ground. It's just that the leaders of these organizations don't want to hear it, and they are controlling a massive narrative. And I know I'm being quite direct about it, but the reality is just do a freaking deal. Make something happen for the betterment of the game. But if you don't, you're just going to drag it out. And invariably, if I would like to know what that result is going to be. Are you doing a deal or you're not doing a deal? Let's all move on after that.
But the problem you've got with the European Tour, and let's call it what it should be, it shouldn't be called the DP World Tour.
Yeah, it's a shit name,
I don't get that. What have you done there? Shit idea.
I know. I'm trying my best here, man. I'm trying my best.
And I have no real connections there anymore with that. I don't get it. And then the second thing is, you lost that. It's much like, and this is exactly where it's at. Seve, Lyle, Woosnam, Alathabal, Faldo, Langer. Okay,
Icons.
Next generation. Casey, Donald, Lowry, McIlroy, and Westwood, Clarkey. All of those 6 went to play in America, followed by Fitzpatrick, great player, America straight away. Tyrrell Hatton, great player, America. Because you can play on the PGA Tour for 8 million prize fund a week. Europe never kept up with it. It was too disjointed. We all know what happened with the EU, etc., etc. And your stars never kept. John Rahm, he's the only one who understands the history and desperate to come back. He's the only one, and that's because of his connection with Seve. So these guys just ended up going to a place where they wanted to play for the money because money drives it, which is why now you're saying live, etc., etc. But again, if you can play in America as an American and keep your taxes in America, etc., etc., that adds for money too. But all of these things, I mean, you could almost go on to a whole conversation now, and I think about it all the time. I was watching some old videos of Seve playing at Lytham with a persimmon sent to me last night. Fantastic. How did we end up where we end up? I like it. I love it. I work in it. But carbon and titanium and metal, baseball, the World Series is going on now. These guys are still using wooden bats. Cricket, they still use wooden bats. Now, baseball, from a neutral viewer looking in, looks like everything is in the pitcher's advantage. You can do so much with the baseball, spin it, get all these little curveballs and divers, whatever the hell they're called. Great effort. The batsman, if you hit a low percentage of home runs, you're one of the best batters to ever play. So the advantage is on the bowler. Cricket, the batsman can obviously make an impact on the game. But I think with golf, if we'd have kept with persimmon and never let the cat out the bag, the game would have kept its integrity, and you might have kept people freaking play. I mean, the tour thing wouldn't have changed, but I'm telling you now, it would have been a freaking harder game if it had been persimmon, for sure.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean it's a good thing. It's better to make the game easier.
I agree for the masses, but I think that it's got so far now gone from where it was. We're not playing the purity of the game, and I'm glad you asked that question, because as we talk about all these tours, the purity of the game is gone. So we have to adapt now. We have to change. It's like teaching with video cameras and AI, etc., etc. Now we've got to come full forward and embrace where we are and make a plan.
I don't see a problem with that. Like, change is inevitable for everything. Like, why would you not try and keep up? I mean, even you talk about baseball and the bats and everything, but the players are different. I mean, just look at the physiques and the way that they prepare for things. It's different now, and it'll be different again in 10 years' time. Like, a friend of mine, I'm going to shout him out because Trotty loves a shout. I'm going to shout my guy out, Dr. Mark Bloomfield, professor at Cambridge University, smart guy, and he does these training sessions. Amazing. I do have smart friends. He's smart friends, and he does these training things, and he gives people a yogurt pot, and he says to them, right, here's a yogurt pot or yogurt, whichever country you're from, and says to you, right, write the expiry date of your company on the top of that yogurt pot or yogurt pot, because it's inevitable. It's coming. I'm just going to go with yogurt because that's what I would say. And I think the message in that, or is the message in that, all about telling you change is coming. It's inevitable. You have to keep up. You have to adapt. You have to try and, get ahead of the curve and get ahead of the trends. And that's what you have to do. And I don't think sport is any different to that. I think it's going to be.
It is.
It's not.
But
it's not.
It is. No. What you're saying is right. I agree, but I wish it wasn't. So I remember when I was a kid, I watched Brian Lara beat Vivian Richards' best score in Test cricket, and Viv Richards stepped up there and just said, "Records are there to be broken. I'm stoked for the guy." Like, it's cool. So the evolution and the change is needed, but mate, right now today, you can't watch a good golf tournament now.
No, I think if I could,
I just think, like, change is inevitable. I get it. I'm all for it if it's done in the right way, right? If it's done as a kind of, let's take a look at where we are. Let's think about the best plan going forwards. Let's drive this based on everyone's best interests. But I'm embarrassed for our sport when we have got 3 tours across the whole world, which are all fighting for, the viewership, the sponsorship, the best players. And outside of those 3 tours, we have matches like what's coming up in December with Scotty Scheffler and Rory McIlroy against Brooks and Bryson, because across 3 tours we can't give the fans what they want. We have to go outside of those tours to create matches because those 3 tours can't get their heads together and go, what do the viewers want? Let's give them that. That's terrible. That's embarrassing.
It's money.
Yeah, I do. There's a lot of dough at stake as well. But and if you think about what the tours are measured on, you speak to the PGA Tour, you speak to the European Tour, there's 2 things that they are measured on based on the membership that they have. One is to create playing opportunities, and 2 is to generate revenue. So there's a lot of pressure to stage more and more events, because I get annoyed that a season finishes and the following week is week 1 of the following season. Why is there no off season? That doesn't create that appetite and demand for when a season begins like it does in football or other sports. So I think if I could redo the schedule, or actually just looking at the schedule broadly, it's over. There's too much golf anyway across the board.
But it's designed to cater. It's designed to cater for everyone. You got a bunch of kids now watching. That's why TGL exists.
I get that, but if you look at the European Tour, in a given season, they'll have over 800 unique golfers that'll compete in a European Tour event that year. 800 golfers, DP World, European Tour, get your hat back on, make sure you mention clipped, yeah? But the point being is that I just think that when you look at how a schedule is formulated, you need to be able to make it sponsor friendly. And to make it sponsor friendly, the better field you can provide, the more likely you are to generate greater revenue into that event. And if you know that the best players in the world are going to play 20 events, why have a 45 tournament schedule? You don't need that. But make it concentrate. You will have less players playing over the course of the season, but it will be much more specifically catered to the needs of the sponsors and therefore the fans.
See, I 100% agree with that. I think that's exactly where we are. There's too many events. The fields are diluted. And when you look at that, like, I'm super excited to see what this TGL looks like. Right, I think it's great to try something. However, when you look at how much golf there is, why did the PGA Tour sit down in a room and go, do you know what this needs? More golf. Like, how is that the outcome? Like,
different audience, different
age. More, doesn't it? You need to lose some events to promote. I just feel like going bigger and bigger and bigger. If I've got 6 retail shops that are all kind of underperforming, I don't go and open another 3.
Yeah, but mate, these
Yeah, but they're
people
different
aren't
shops.
interested. Yeah, exactly. These people aren't interested in watching 4-day tournaments at Riviera because they don't care who Ben Hogan is or the fact that Tiger Woods had his first tour event there. They don't care. You know what I mean? So therefore, like their entry to the game has been simulator golf. That's what TGL is for them, and
But
I
what I'm
get it.
saying is, I
So
get that, but you've
80
already got to look at your worst performing events and go, we need to do something with those, because those are the ones that surely are the most difficult to sell to sponsors. It feels like,
They
to me, it feels like the
and they
PGA Tour.
became live events.
Well, maybe, but
They
it
already
feels
have.
the PGA Tour have got 8 events which are underperforming, and they've gone, yeah, we'll just leave those and we'll go and do this. It's like, you can't do that, surely. You know, if I've
Well,
got,
I do think it's a different product, though. Again, you're not comparing apples with apples there. I mean, simulator golf versus 4-round golf tournament with a cut after 2 days, a completely different
But
experience.
the other thing is, though, is that the tour had a thing where they would make every player play every event once in a 5-year period, I think. I'm pretty sure. I don't know if that still exists. So
Did
in
they?
order to those smaller events, it was years ago, those smaller events would get each player going to them because a player would, under contract, have to play every event. But the players didn't like it.
No.
Because then all of a sudden you're manipulating the official world golf thing. You know what I mean? It's all about data. I mean, you can take the piss, boys, but I live and die by the data, which is why I have this beautiful partnership that you take the piss out of. But I'm telling you, it's freaking data. So data tells us that people don't want to listen to you pricks for longer than 35, 40 minutes. So what I want to know as we move towards the end of this and we get another assistant coming next week, which I can't wait for, where do you think we'll be in 2 years' time with this whole thing? Because for all I'm understanding here, we haven't got any further forward on this.
Right, in 2 years' time, I reckon
Dazzler's the man for this one.
I think the Euro. I don't think I am, to be honest with you, because I'm on the fence on both sides. I can definitely see a world where there is no deal in place, and there will just be an acceptance that LIV Golf is standalone. But I do think that there will be inclusion into the majors should that happen. The alternative view on that is that I think that they'll have a much more vested interest in what the European Tour do as part of a deal that gets brokered with the PGA Tour. But beyond that, I'm not so sure. There's too many variables for me to be able to make a decision as to which way that goes. But I think if a deal gets made, I think it'll benefit the European Tour. If it doesn't, I think the game will be fractured forever. That's probably an assessment of where I am
The
today.
European Tour is a pawn in this whole thing. And it's not even a player, unfortunately. Like it's a legacy product. It's fantastic. I love it. I loved what it was, but that ship has sailed. Just much like persimmon versus technology. It's gone. It had to change. It had to evolve. What happens in the end here, for my prediction, is that based on the financial backing coming into the sport from the people behind LIV, which is amazing for the sport, eventually that wins out and there becomes something that LIV leads the way, whether that's with PGA Tour in a 50-50 partnership or a 60-40, I don't know, but it has to win. There's too much at stake and there's too much power and too much money, and there has to be a solution.
It's too many egos. That's a problem.
So you said, Darryl, about a deal, which obviously we've heard that for 18 months now. What do you think that even could look like? Could that look like PGA Tour kind of scheduling quote unquote weeks off when LIV events are on? Do you think that's how it will maybe go, where there is still LIV and still PGA Tour, but they work kind of hand in hand to not clash?
Yeah, I think scheduling will be a massive part of this decision to do this, and how they construct a playing schedule that accommodates viewerships in a way that maximizes it. So I do think that the schedule will be quite fundamental to how this works. I also know that the European Tour still haven't published their schedule for next year, which is very late this time of year, very, very late. So is there something in the works at the moment? And I'm being a bit conspiracy theorist here. Is there something in the works that we are just not that privy to know about just yet? Maybe. Fuck, maybe not. I don't know. But I do think scheduling has been a hot topic point in the boardroom amongst all those execs. Yes.
Because I just think, I look at the PGA Tour now, and we could run through the PGA Tour schedule, and you could pretty much loosely tell me whether it's a strong field or a weak field, right? Like Barracuda Championship, right? We all know that's going to be a relatively weak field. So I think going forward, it might be a situation where the PGA Tour is 15 events, and all those other events just drop down to like Corn Ferry Tour, because to me as a viewer, I feel like that's the same. I feel like the Barracuda Championship is almost equivalent to a Corn Ferry Tour. So I can see a situation where PGA Tour is just 15 events, LIV is a similar number of events, and we come together for the majors.
I tell you, you just hit something in my brain here, to be fair, Bubs. My prediction for 2 years, I think it'll be one tour. I think it'll be a world tour. And that has definitely been mentioned a lot between conversations that I've had with some of the leadership people at both tours. And actually, that will be my prediction. As part of this deal, there'll be a world tour and European.
Because I just said that 10 minutes ago.
Did you? I obviously wasn't listening. Make sure you put your hat on.
Jesus Christ, you prick. There you go. So after all that, basically, you agree with me. It took us 45 minutes to get there.
But
you agree
I want to ask you a question, though, both of you guys, and I'll answer this as well. If you were a tour player right now on either the PGA Tour or European Tour, and LIV Golf came to you and said, hey, look, we want you to play on our tour, how much would you be prepared to leave your tour for to go and play LIV, if at all?
Well, I mean, LIV is 14 events and 3 days. PGA Tour is generally more events than 4 days. So if my wife had anything to do with it, she'd make me go and play LIV for free because it's less time away from home.
And if you had anything to do with it, you'd play the one that took you away the most.
Yeah.
I'd play all 51 events and tell her I made the cut even though I didn't.
I think in answer to that question, there's many variables. You have to assume. I was going to answer quickly, but I thought about it. Let's assume you're holding a fantastic category on the PGA Tour. Let's assume you're a great player and you have a great category on the PGA Tour. Let's assume you're American, okay? Which is, so you domiciled here, Ryder Cup team here. And I'm thinking like Justin Thomas standard. I think now, today, you will have already been offered money to go there. You didn't go. Now you got to stay and you got to wait and you just got to accept it because you want to make that Ryder Cup at Bethpage and you just want to persevere on. But look, there's many flip sides. If you're a big time European player and you're playing the PGA Tour and, you're Shane Lowry, I don't know. But I just don't think now they can offer you the money they could have offered. I think you've made your bed. I think you've got to sit and just grind it and see it out, to be honest, because you're clearly driven by legacy over money. But I think if you're looking at who's made the best decisions, hard to look beyond Bryson, right? I mean, he's gone out, started a fantastic YouTube channel. It changed the way he does everything, playing golf with Trump, which must just kill on YouTube algorithms, and won a major and changed his persona in the whole thing. I mean, that is the biggest win out of all of it.
Yeah. And let's say you did go over to play LIV and you won a tournament. This is a little roundup here, boys. What would be your beer of choice?
Depends on your country that you win it. You wouldn't be drinking beer if you won one of those tournaments either, would you?
Well, Bubs would be drinking Cinzano. We've established that. You would have one of those.
He'd be on the flight back home.
I don't even know what Cinzano is, but if I won a LIV event, I would definitely want my mood lighting in the background for the photos of me and the trophy.
Love it, boys. Love it.
Fantastic. Well, listen, lads, appreciate that. Have a lovely week, and no doubt, it's just me and you next week, isn't it, Big D?
No,
I think it could be. Are you going to be there from Italy? Oh, calling in from Italy. I like it. That's commitment to the cause.
Are we just going to finish up with Trotty telling everyone what our social handles are?
Yeah, let's go to handles.
You can find us on these handles. Spotify, obviously. And you can get us on iTunes for sure, and any podcast, wherever you find your podcasts on your Apple products, we can be found there. And hello@dopestroke.com if you want to email in and tell us any thoughts about this week's podcast or anything else you guys want. Until next time, we shall see you soon.